Daniel Ross was the type of man headlines were made for: sharp suit, sharper mind. At just 42, he had built one of the largest marketing empires in New York. His face graced magazine covers, his words quoted in business schools, his name associated with power. But that morning, as snow dusted the windows of his 56th-floor corner office, Daniel stared at the one document no one expected him to sign: his own resignation. The boardroom was silent after the quarterly meeting. Profits had soared, applause echoed, champagne glasses clinked, but Daniel sat still, his face unreadable. Inside, though, he was unraveling. He hadn't slept properly in weeks, meals were skipped. His wife had left a year ago, tired of playing second to a company. His son barely spoke to him. He was a man surrounded by everything and connected to nothing. He stood up, adjusted his tie, and said quietly, "I've lost something along the way, and I need to find it." He handed the resignation letter to his stunned assistant and walked out. No press statement, no farewell party, just silence and snow. Daniel found himself in a small, snow-covered town hours away from the city. He wore an old coat and jeans, his Rolex swapped for a second-hand watch from a thrift store. He didn't want to be recognized. He wanted to be invisible, to feel life without power clouding it. He stepped into a warm diner, its bell jingling as the door shut. The place smelled of fresh coffee and pancakes. There, behind the counter, was Linda, a woman in her late 30s, her hair tied up, smile faint but kind. He watched her serve coffee, clean tables, and offer warm words to each customer. Then a homeless man walked in shivering, with torn gloves and tired eyes. Linda approached him gently and said, "The usual, Jack." He nodded, embarrassed. She served him a full breakfast, no charge. Daniel leaned forward, curious. "You gave that to him for free." She shrugged. "He's not a problem to be solved. He's a man who needs to eat." Daniel blinked. In his world, favors came with strings. Kindness was branded. Yet here was a woman doing more with less, and smiling through it. "Why?" he asked. "Because," she said, "you don't need to be rich to make someone's day better." Daniel felt something crack open inside. Daniel offered to walk Linda home after helping close the diner. She was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. Her home was small, lived-in, and full of warmth. Crayons scattered across the floor, art on the fridge. Her daughter, Sophie, bounded in, 9 years old, bright-eyed. "Mom, who's this?" she asked, curiosity dancing in her voice. "This is Mr. Dan. He helped out today." Sophie looked at Daniel with unusual seriousness. "Are you sad inside, Mr. Dan?" He was taken aback. "Why do you ask?" "Because you look like someone who forgets how to smile." He laughed, nervously. "Maybe I have." Sophie grabbed a jar from the table. Inside it were tiny scraps of paper, each with childlike writing. "This is my happiness jar," she explained. "Every day I write one good thing, even if it's just I had warm socks." Daniel picked up one note. Mom made pancakes even though she was tired. That night he lay on the borrowed couch, staring at the ceiling, jar in hand. In all his success, he had never done something like this. Count the small joys. Daniel stayed in town for several more days, visiting the diner regularly. He helped with dishes, watched Linda's gentle way with people, and learned about her late husband, her 2 jobs, and her quiet strength. What stunned him most was how she never complained. Every act, whether helping Jack the homeless man or buying school supplies for another struggling family, was done with grace and gratitude, never seeking recognition. Moved beyond words, Daniel made a few calls, but quietly. No name, no face, no spotlight. One morning, Linda received a letter from the bank, her mortgage, paid in full. A second envelope announced anonymous investment into the diner, allowing her to expand, hire staff, and start a weekly community meal where no one would go hungry. She stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. Along with the letter was a simple note. "You reminded a lost man what real strength looks like. Thank you." She didn't know it was Daniel, and he didn't want her to, because real strength, he now understood, wasn't about being seen. It was about seeing others. The crowd of students cheered as the guest speaker was announced. Daniel Ross, once one of the most feared CEO in America, now standing in jeans and a blazer, holding no briefcase, no ego, just a microphone and a truth to share. He looked over the sea of faces and spotted Linda and Sophie in the audience. They still didn't know. He began, 6 months ago, I walked away from everything I thought made me strong. Money, power, prestige. I thought that was success, but I was empty inside. He paused, eyes glistening. I found my real strength not in a boardroom, but in a diner, in a little girl's happiness jar, in the kindness of a woman who gave without expecting anything back. He shared how those moments rebuilt him. How strength is not in what you accumulate, but what you give. Not in how many people follow you, but in how many you lift up. The audience sat in stunned silence, moved, inspired. As he stepped down, Sophie ran up to him and slipped a paper in his pocket. Later, alone in his car, he opened it. In her scribbled handwriting, it read, "This story reminds us that true strength lies in compassion, humility, and connection, not in titles or achievements. The world measures success in numbers, but the soul measures it in moments of kindness, in lives touched, in hearts healed. When you feel lost, find someone to help. When you feel broken, look for the little things to be grateful for. And remember, sometimes, the smallest act of goodness becomes someone's biggest turning point."